Have you ever encountered someone who seems to know exactly what's hidden in your heart, understanding you better than you understand yourself? Someone whose presence is so compelling and intense that it draws you in, making it impossible to ignore? If your answer is yes, chances are you've crossed paths with a Scorpio, born under the powerful influence of Pluto, the planet of transformation, secrets, and deep emotional currents, and guided by Mars, the fierce planet of courage and strength. Scorpios possess an aura of mystery and magnetism that captivates everyone around them. Yet, more than their mysterious charm, Scorpios are often admired, and sometimes even feared, for their extraordinary ability to be consistently right. It's not mere luck or coincidence. Scorpios hold within them an uncanny intuition, a natural gift that allows them to perceive truths hidden beneath the surface. They effortlessly see through illusions, recognizing intentions and outcomes long before they manifest. They have an incredible knack for pinpoint accuracy when predicting how situations will unfold, leaving many astonished at their precise insights. Think about iconic Scorpios who've showcased this talent publicly. Bill Gates, whose visionary foresight changed the technological landscape forever. Leonardo DiCaprio, whose exceptional intuition in selecting roles repeatedly brought him critical acclaim and immense success. These examples illustrate Scorpio's remarkable ability to make the right calls when it matters most. Yet this isn't limited to celebrities alone. Every Scorpio, regardless of their walk of life, carries this profound instinct. Perhaps you've personally experienced it. A friend, a family member, or a partner whose advice always seemed unerringly accurate, whose predictions became reality with striking clarity. But what is behind Scorpio's legendary correctness? Could it be their unparalleled emotional intelligence, enabling them to decipher emotions and motivations others overlook? Maybe it's their fearless pursuit of honesty, never hesitating to speak uncomfortable truths that most people avoid. Or perhaps it's their resilience, an innate strength that helps them rise from challenges wiser and more insightful than before. In this exploration, we'll dive deeply into the captivating world of Scorpio. We'll examine 12 distinct and powerful reasons why Scorpios often find themselves standing confidently on the right side of arguments, decisions, and life-changing moments. Each reason will be illuminated by compelling stories, vivid examples, and timeless insights, revealing the depth behind Scorpio's mysterious precision. By the end of our journey, you'll either find yourself wholeheartedly agreeing or passionately debating their accuracy. One thing is guaranteed: you'll gain newfound appreciation and deeper understanding for the fascinating Scorpio in your life. Are you prepared to explore these revelations, question your perceptions, and engage in meaningful debate? If you're ready to uncover the powerful truths that define Scorpio's legendary intuition, let's begin this intriguing and transformative journey right now. Reason 1. Scorpio's intuition is rarely wrong. Have you ever wondered why Scorpios seem to possess a sixth sense? A powerful intuition that allows them to anticipate outcomes with extraordinary accuracy? It's as if they have a hidden internal compass, silently guiding them through life's unpredictable terrain, helping them navigate effortlessly around obstacles others might not even notice. Consider Leonardo DiCaprio, an iconic Scorpio whose extraordinary career offers a vivid example of Scorpio intuition in action. DiCaprio's acting roles aren't randomly chosen. Each one is meticulously selected, guided by his sharp instinct for storytelling and emotional depth. From his captivating portrayal of Jack Dawson in Titanic to his powerful performance in The Revenant, Leo consistently picks projects destined for both critical acclaim and commercial success. But is this merely luck, or something deeper at play? Scorpio's intuition operates on a profoundly emotional and subconscious level. They don't simply guess, they feel. Unlike many other signs who primarily rely on logic or visible facts, Scorpio trusts an internal, invisible radar, an instinctive understanding of the underlying truths that shape situations and people. This gives them a considerable advantage when faced with critical decisions or ambiguous circumstances. Let's delve into a personal story to illustrate this vividly. Sarah, a Scorpio friend of mine, once faced a pivotal career decision. Her company offered her an incredible promotion. More money, higher status, and increased responsibilities. Everyone around her encouraged acceptance. Logically, it seemed perfect. Yet something felt off to her. Her intuition sent subtle but persistent warnings. Without tangible evidence to support her doubt, Sarah courageously declined the offer. Initially, friends and family questioned her decision, even criticized it as impulsive or foolish. Yet months later, Sarah's intuition was validated spectacularly. The person who accepted the position struggled with unseen challenges, chaotic leadership, unfulfilled promises, and eventually significant career setbacks. Meanwhile, Sarah, trusting her inner voice, pursued another path that led to greater fulfillment, stability, and long-term success. Her intuitive decision turned out to be unquestionably correct. What makes Scorpio's intuition uniquely accurate is their bravery in trusting feelings over logic. It's a kind of quiet courage, being willing to follow a gut feeling, even when the entire world argues against it. And more often than not, their bold choice to listen to this intuition rewards them richly. There's also a spiritual dimension to Scorpio's gift. Ruled by Pluto, the planet associated with transformation and profound mysteries, Scorpio often taps into deeper realms of understanding, reaching truths most people aren't even aware exist. Pluto's influence enhances their intuitive powers, making them incredibly sensitive to emotional energies, unspoken intentions, and subtle signs hidden beneath the surface of everyday life. However, Scorpio's intuition isn't limited solely to self-benefit. They often sense danger or opportunities for loved ones, offering timely warnings or valuable advice. They intuitively recognize when someone is struggling, even if that person appears perfectly fine on the outside. This makes them exceptional friends, counselors, and confidants, trusted allies whose insights are often astonishingly precise. Yet, Scorpio's intuition can sometimes be misunderstood or even intimidating. Their uncanny accuracy might make others uncomfortable, prompting skepticism or resistance. But over time, people around Scorpio learn to appreciate this special gift. After repeatedly witnessing Scorpio's predictions become reality, skepticism transforms into admiration, doubt into trust. The life lesson here is clear. Intuition is not something to dismiss or overlook. While logic has its place, true wisdom often emerges from deep within, from a quiet voice guiding us toward what's genuinely right. Scorpio teaches us the invaluable skill of listening to our own internal guidance, even when external voices loudly disagree. So next time you encounter a Scorpio confidently standing by their intuitive choice, pause and listen carefully. You might be surprised, or maybe not, to discover that, once again, Scorpio's intuition proves itself undeniably correct. Reason 2. Scorpio sees through illusions others don't even notice. There's a saying that should probably be credited to a Scorpio. Don't believe everything you see. Real truth hides beneath the surface. If Reason 1 revealed Scorpio's uncanny intuition, Reason 2 goes deeper. Scorpio doesn't just feel what's coming. They see what's hidden. And what they see can change everything. Have you ever looked someone in the eyes, smiled, nodded, but deep inside felt like something was off? Most people ignore that gut feeling. Not Scorpio. Scorpio locks in.
Scorpio paye attention.
And within seconds, they begin to read what's not being said. They notice the hesitation in someone's voice, the shift in tone, the small inconsistencies in body language. Where others get distracted by pretty words or polished appearances, Scorpio hones in on energy, and energy never lies. Let's talk about Katy Perry, a powerful Scorpio artist whose image has undergone multiple transformations, from bubbly pop star to spiritual, emotionally evolved powerhouse. In interviews, she's been open about seeing through the illusions of fame, wealth, and success. She's talked about how those things can put a mask on your soul, and how it took breaking illusions in her own life to finally find peace and authenticity. That's classic Scorpio. They are born to challenge appearances, to remove the veil, to confront what others avoid. Scorpio is ruled by Pluto, the underworld planet, the ruler of secrets, psychological depth, and rebirth. This gives them a unique connection to what's hidden. Where other signs operate on the surface level of people and situations, Scorpio is drawn to the underground of reality. They walk into a room and without saying a word, they can feel betrayal, dishonesty, or manipulation like a cold breeze in the air. This isn't paranoia. This is perception sharpened to surgical precision. Let me tell you a real story. A man named Jacob, a quiet Scorpio who worked in upper management, once warned his team that something wasn't right with the new partnership. The financials looked solid. The executives were charismatic. The data was clean. Everyone thought Jacob was just being overly cautious, but he felt something off. It wasn't in the paperwork. It wasn't in the language. It was in the vibe, in how the CEO didn't look people in the eye, in how some questions got dodged with charm instead of clarity. 6 months later, that partner company was exposed in a massive financial scandal that nearly tanked the division. The only reason Jacob's team didn't go down with them? He'd insisted on backup contingencies, quietly, methodically, and with zero drama, just in case his instincts were right. And they were. People later called him lucky, but that's not luck. That's Scorpio sight. And this ability doesn't just protect Scorpios, it protects the people around them. The friend dating someone perfect, on the surface but hiding a dark pattern? Scorpio sees it. The coworker acting just a little too nice after ignoring you for months? Scorpio notices. The energy shift in a conversation, the tension behind a compliment, the fear behind someone's laughter? Scorpio catches it every time. But here's the twist. Being able to see through illusions can be isolating. When you spot lies no one else sees, people might call you dramatic, suspicious, even paranoid. Scorpios are often gaslit into thinking they're too intense or overthinking. But sooner or later, the truth always rises. And when it does, Scorpio is rarely surprised. That's why they're so selective with trust. It's not that they're cold or arrogant. It's that they've seen too much. Their eyes have peeled back too many layers, watched too many masks fall, witnessed too many perfect stories collapse into betrayal. Their silence isn't distance, it's protection. Their skepticism isn't judgment, it's wisdom. So what's the life lesson here? Don't be so quick to dismiss what you can't see. What looks perfect may be poison in disguise. And the quiet person in the corner, saying something feels wrong? Listen to them, especially if they're a Scorpio. Because when Scorpio tells you the illusion is about to break, it probably already has. Reason 3. Scorpio thinks before acting, and that's why they're rarely wrong. In a world obsessed with speed, fast answers, fast reactions, fast decisions, Scorpio stands still. Observing, absorbing, calculating. It's not hesitation, it's precision. Unlike more impulsive signs, Scorpio doesn't jump. They wait. And in that waiting, they gather a kind of power most people overlook. It's the power of deep analysis, and it's one of the most underestimated reasons why Scorpios are often right when everyone else is wrong. While others react emotionally or follow the crowd, Scorpio is in the shadows, quietly putting pieces together. They don't just see what is happening, they ask why. Why now? Why this way? Why that reaction? They look for patterns and they follow them to their root. Scorpio is the zodiac's investigator, the strategist, the one playing psychological chess while others are stuck in checkers. Think of Bill Gates. A Scorpio mind if there ever was one. While the world was still adjusting to personal computers, he was already planning how software would dominate the future. His success wasn't the result of charisma or luck. It was the product of deep, strategic foresight. Gates didn't just act on ideas. He studied them. He tested them. And when he moved decisively, because he'd already seen 10 moves ahead. That's Scorpio. They don't always speak up immediately. They don't always react when provoked. And that makes people uncomfortable. Why are they so quiet? Some might ask. But that silence isn't empty, it's full. Full of observation. Full of calculation. Scorpio is mentally mapping everything. Your tone, your timing, your true intentions. They're not being passive, they're preparing. This level of mental and emotional processing gives Scorpio a reputation for being intense or too serious. But what people mistake for intensity is actually focus. What they call overthinking is, in truth, strategic wisdom. Let me tell you a real-world story. A woman named Clarissa worked in corporate HR. A Scorpio. Her company was preparing to hire a new executive, someone with an impressive resume, glowing references, and a charismatic presence. Everyone was sold, but Clarissa noticed subtle red flags during the interviews, slight deflections when the candidate was asked about ethics, vague answers about previous team dynamics. She didn't say much at first. She asked to sleep on it. While others mocked her delay, Clarissa spent her evening researching everything: past leadership changes, patterns of company behavior, even social media interactions. What she found raised real concerns. The next morning, she calmly presented her findings. Turns out the candidate had been let go quietly from a previous firm after several HR issues.
No lawsuits. No scandal.
Just quiet exits that no one had thought to question. Her quiet decision to pause? It saved the company from a PR nightmare. That's the Scorpio advantage. They don't get pressured into rushing. They know that the truth often reveals itself when you give it space. And when they make a decision, it comes from depth, not impulse. From clarity, not confusion. Here's where the life lesson hits. Patience is power. In today's world, where noise is confused with leadership and speed mistaken for decisiveness, Scorpio reminds us that the smartest move is often the one made after thinking 10 times. They teach us to slow down, to analyze the terrain before stepping forward, and to trust that waiting doesn't mean weakness, it means wisdom. So the next time a Scorpio is silent when others are rushing in, pay attention. They're not lost in indecision. They're preparing their next checkmate. Reason 4. Scorpio's brutal honesty makes them unshakably right. In a world where sugarcoating is the default, where people bend the truth to be liked, accepted, or left alone, Scorpio chooses a different road. A harder road. A road paved with raw, unfiltered truth. And that, right there, is one of Scorpio's most controversial powers, and the 4th reason why they're so often right. Because when others are busy avoiding reality, Scorpio is busy confronting it. Scorpio doesn't tell you what you want to hear. They tell you what you need to hear. And it's not always pretty. Their words can sting. Their truths can cut. But make no mistake, behind every blunt sentence, every uncomfortable statement, lies one simple, unavoidable fact. They're usually right. Let's talk about Gordon Ramsay. Yes, he's a world-renowned chef. But more importantly, he's a Scorpio. And his brand is honesty without apology. People tune in not just to see him cook, but to hear him call out mediocrity, expose laziness, and demand excellence. While many call him harsh, what they can't deny is this: the man is rarely wrong. His brutal honesty has helped thousands of struggling restaurants, chefs, and business owners wake up, because someone finally told them the truth no one else had the courage to say. That's Scorpio energy in its purest form. They don't enjoy hurting people, but they value truth more than comfort. They don't believe in pretending everything's fine when it's clearly falling apart. And if they see you heading toward disaster, they'll say so, even if it makes them the villain in your story. Why? Because Scorpio is loyal to your potential, not your ego. They'll tell you your relationship is toxic. They'll tell you your excuses are holding you back. They'll tell you your smile is fake and your words are hollow. And while it might hurt to hear in the moment, it's usually the catalyst for change you desperately needed. But this truth-telling ability doesn't make Scorpio popular. In fact, it often makes them targets. People call them cold, harsh, or too intense. They get accused of being rude when in fact they're just being real. And in a society that often fears reality, Scorpios become walking confrontations. But here's the twist most people miss. Scorpio's honesty doesn't come from judgment. It comes from pain. Most Scorpios have lived through betrayal, lies, manipulation. They've seen what happens when truth is buried, and they've sworn never to be part of that illusion again. That's why they speak the truth, even when it costs them relationships, jobs, or social approval. And what happens most of the time? Weeks or months later, after the anger fades and the dust settles, people admit it. You were right. The partner they defended turned out to be a liar. The job they clung to collapsed. The friendship they refused to question turned toxic. And Scorpio? They just stand quietly in the background, not needing credit, just relieved the truth finally caught up. So what's the life lesson here? Truth has a cost, but not telling it costs more. Scorpio teaches us that uncomfortable honesty is better than comforting lies. That sometimes love means confrontation. And that being right doesn't always feel good. It often feels lonely. But Scorpio didn't come here to be liked. They came here to be aligned with truth, with transformation, with what's real. So the next time a Scorpio tells you something that hits a nerve, don't push it away. Pause. Breathe. Ask yourself, what truth are they seeing that I'm afraid to face? Because chances are they've already seen it, long before you were ready to admit it. Reason 5. Scorpio understands human nature on a soul level. Some people study psychology. Some read books on body language. Others take years of experience to finally grasp what motivates human behavior. But Scorpio was born understanding it. There's something almost eerie about the way Scorpio reads people. It's not just intuition. It's not just observation. It's soul-deep comprehension. A quiet, piercing ability to understand what someone truly wants, fears, hides, or needs, long before that person realizes it themselves. This is why Scorpios often know when a friend is lying, even when the lie is small. This is why they can see through charisma and detect manipulation, why they trust vibes over words, and why they can sit in silence with someone and still know exactly what that person is going through. Think of Whoopi Goldberg, a legendary Scorpio whose career has spanned comedy, acting, activism, and public conversation. What makes her voice so powerful? It's not just her talent. It's her ability to get to the core of issues. She speaks directly to the emotional truth of every topic she touches, whether it's politics, grief, injustice, or personal power. That's Scorpio perception, seeing into the heart of human complexity and naming what no one else wants to say out loud. Where other signs analyze from the outside, Scorpio feels from within. Their understanding of human behavior isn't learned, it's embodied. They recognize patterns. They detect motives. They read the silence in a room like others read headlines. And because of this, they're often the one friend who can tell you, before anything happens, this person isn't what they seem. And they're usually right. Let me give you a real-life story. In a small startup, a Scorpio named Evan worked as a mid-level operations manager. Everyone loved a new hire, charming, energetic, seemingly perfect. But Evan stayed quiet. He watched, listened, picked up on the way the new guy interrupted people subtly, how he shifted blame when projects hit roadblocks, how his compliments felt just a little too calculated. Evan didn't speak up at first, not because he didn't notice, but because he wanted to be sure. Then one day he pulled the CEO aside and simply said, "This man will burn your team out. He's not a builder. He's a user." The CEO laughed it off, until 3 months later, when half the team quit, morale plummeted, and the golden hire was exposed for taking credit for others' work. Evan didn't gloat. He just quietly helped rebuild what was left, because that's what Scorpios do. They don't want to be right to prove a point. They want to protect people from the pain of ignoring the obvious. But this gift is double-edged, because when you understand human nature on that level, you also carry the burden of seeing darkness in people others think are light. You notice the cracks in a smile, the tension behind a laugh. You feel what's not being said, and that can be incredibly lonely. This is why Scorpios are often misunderstood. People think they're too serious, too suspicious, or too intense. But Scorpio isn't looking for drama. They're just seeing the truth. And that truth, especially when it contradicts someone's illusion, can make people uncomfortable. Still, Scorpios don't stop seeing. They can't. It's who they are. And honestly, it's why people often return to them for advice when things fall apart. Because in hindsight, everyone remembers what the Scorpio said. Quiet, direct, accurate. So what's the life lesson? Pay attention to the people who understand you without words. The ones who make you feel seen, even when you don't want to be. The ones who tell you the truth, not to hurt you but to save you. Scorpio shows us that true understanding comes not from surface charm, but from emotional depth, from presence, from soul-level perception. And that kind of wisdom, you can't fake it. You either have it or you don't. And Scorpio always has it. Reason 6. Scorpio's silence says what words never can. In a world that never stops talking, Scorpio chooses silence. Not because they have nothing to say, but because they understand something most people don't. Silence is power. And when a Scorpio falls silent, you better believe something significant is happening beneath the surface. Where other signs rush to fill space with words, explanations, or justifications, Scorpio retreats into stillness. And it's in that silence where their greatest strength is forged. Because Scorpio's silence is never passive. It's intentional. It's the silence of a mind observing everything, calculating patterns, storing energy, waiting for the precise moment to strike with precision. You see, when a Scorpio stops talking, they don't stop feeling. Quite the opposite. That silence often means they've already understood what's really going on, far beyond the level of words. They've sensed the betrayal before it happened. They've heard the insult behind the smile. They've seen the motive behind the compliment. And instead of reacting emotionally or theatrically, they withhold. And that withholding? It speaks louder than shouting ever could. Scorpio's silence is not avoidance. It's dominance. It's a calm, grounded confidence that says, I don't need to explain myself to be right. Let's talk about a perfect example. Hillary Clinton, a Scorpio whose silence during moments of immense public pressure was often criticized, but rarely misunderstood by fellow Scorpios. While media storms surrounded her, she chose stillness. She didn't react to every jab. She didn't feed every rumor. She calculated. And when she did speak, the impact was thunderous, because she knew silence had amplified her voice. That's what Scorpio understands better than almost anyone. Words lose meaning when overused. But silence can haunt. It can pierce. It can make someone question everything they thought they knew. Let me share a story from real life. A man named Thomas worked under a Scorpio boss named Elaine. Elaine wasn't loud. She never micromanaged. But she had this presence, quiet, calm, piercing. One day, Thomas made a costly mistake and tried to cover it up. Most managers would have erupted. But not Elaine. She listened. She asked one question. Then she went silent. For the next 3 days, she said nothing to him. Not even eye contact.
No confrontación. No anger.
Just a complete withdrawal of energy. And Thomas? He unraveled. The silence was deafening. It forced him to confront his guilt. He confessed everything, apologized, and changed permanently. Elaine didn't need to punish him. Her silence did all the talking. This is the secret weapon Scorpio wields. Emotional presence without noise. It makes people uncomfortable because it reveals things about themselves. Scorpio's silence is a mirror. It reflects your insecurities, your truths, your contradictions. That's why people either fear it or grow from it. But there's also a deeply spiritual side to this silence. Scorpio, ruled by Pluto, is attuned to the invisible, to the undercurrents, to the energy between words. They often understand that sometimes the universe speaks loudest when we go quiet. They use silence not only as a defense, but as a tool for transformation. When Scorpios go silent, they're recalibrating. They're letting go. They're shifting timelines. They're ending one cycle and preparing to birth another. And when they come back, it's never as the same version of themselves. So what's the life lesson? You don't always need to explain yourself to be understood. Sometimes your silence is the clearest truth you'll ever speak. Scorpio teaches us the value of stillness in a world addicted to noise. That reflection is louder than reaction. That presence is stronger than performance. And the next time a Scorpio goes quiet on you, don't just ask, what's wrong? Ask yourself, what did I just reveal without realizing it? Because odds are they already saw it. They're just giving you space to see it too. Reason 7. Scorpio's emotional intelligence is on another level. Emotional intelligence isn't about being overly nice. It's not about always staying calm or pretending to understand people. True emotional intelligence is the ability to feel deeply, interpret those feelings with clarity, and respond with purpose. And when it comes to emotional intelligence, no one does it like Scorpio. Scorpios aren't just emotionally aware, they're emotionally fluent. While many people get lost in their feelings or overwhelmed by others' emotions, Scorpio navigates them like a seasoned sailor in a storm. They don't drown, they dive. Why? Because they've spent their whole lives swimming in deep waters. From an early age, Scorpios experience emotions with intensity. Joy isn't just joy, it's euphoria. Pain isn't just sadness, it's soul-level grief. And because of that, they learn to understand emotions, not just their own but everyone else's too. This is why Scorpios can walk into a room and instantly feel tension no one else is acknowledging. Why they can hear a single word and sense the emotion behind it. Why they always seem to know when someone's faking a smile, hiding anger, or breaking down beneath the surface. They pick up on shifts, pauses, micro-expressions. They feel everything. Take Julia Roberts, a Scorpio whose emotional range on screen has captivated audiences for decades. What makes her performances unforgettable? It's not just talent, it's emotional precision. Whether she's portraying heartbreak, fierce independence, or silent strength, you believe her. You feel her. Because she's not acting from her head, she's channeling from her emotional core. That's what Scorpio brings to life: depth. But this emotional depth isn't always easy, because when you feel everything, you carry more than most people understand. Scorpios often absorb the pain of others, even when it's unspoken. They carry silent burdens. They grieve quietly. They celebrate quietly. They understand the weight of feelings that others can't even name. Let me tell you a story. Amanda, a Scorpio therapist, once had a client who'd been to 3 different counselors before her. The client said all the right things, smiled on cue, seemed stable. But Amanda, just by listening, watching, and feeling, knew something was off. The sadness wasn't in the words. It was in the pauses, in the eyes, in the shifting energy. Amanda didn't press. She waited. And when she finally asked, "What are you not saying?" the client broke down. Years of suppressed trauma, never mentioned, never noticed, until Scorpio saw it. That's emotional intelligence at its finest. Not analysis, not textbook understanding, but soul intuition. Scorpio doesn't just process emotions, they honor them. They create space for truth. And in doing so, they offer others the permission to be raw, real, and finally honest with themselves. But here's where it gets deeper. Scorpios don't manipulate emotions. They respect them. They use emotional intelligence not to control people, but to protect them, to heal, to awaken, to guide others back to their truth. That's why people often say, "I don't know how, but I just feel safe with you." Because Scorpio isn't judging your feelings. They've probably already felt them too. Yet this emotional superpower often isolates them, because few people can meet them at the same level. Most stay at the surface, avoiding vulnerability. And Scorpio? They crave depth. This disconnect can be painful, especially in love and friendship. They feel more than they receive. They see more than others are ready to face. But they don't stop loving. They just become more selective. So what's the life lesson here? Depth is not weakness. Feeling deeply is not failure. Scorpio reminds us that emotional intelligence isn't about being in control. It's about being in truth. That honoring our feelings and the feelings of others leads to greater clarity, stronger relationships, and powerful healing. And the next time a Scorpio asks, "Are you really okay?" don't dismiss it. They're not just asking. They already know. Reason 8. Scorpio is the master of transformation. You can break a Scorpio, but you will never destroy them. Because Scorpio isn't just a survivor. Scorpio is the phoenix, the alchemist, the soul that can walk through fire, turn to ash, and rise again, brighter, stronger, wiser than before. While many people fear change, Scorpio becomes it. This is one of their greatest, most awe-inspiring powers, the ability to transform. Not superficially, not cosmetically, but fundamentally from the inside out. Scorpio doesn't just get over things. They transmute them. Pain becomes wisdom. Betrayal becomes boundaries. Loss becomes purpose. Think of the myth of the phoenix, the sacred bird that dies in flames only to rise again from its own ashes. This is Scorpio's soul story. It's not a metaphor to them. It's their lived experience. From breakups to deaths, bankruptcies to betrayals, when life crushes them, Scorpio doesn't beg for rescue. They descend willingly into their own darkness. They face their demons. They bleed. They cry in silence. And slowly, through unbearable honesty, they begin to rebuild. Not the life they had, but the life they were meant for. Let's look at a real example: Winona Ryder. In the early 2000s, her career hit a massive wall. Skandal. Rejection. Silence from an industry that once adored her. Many thought she was finished. But Winona, true to her Scorpio nature, went inward. She didn't chase headlines or beg for forgiveness. She disappeared. She healed. And when she returned, it wasn't as the old version of herself. It was as a matured, powerful presence in Stranger Things, haunting, grounded, and emotionally rich. She didn't come back to prove anyone wrong. She came back to show us what rebirth looks like. That's Scorpio. They understand that life isn't linear. It's cyclical. That the end of one chapter is the sacred beginning of another. And while other signs cling to who they were, Scorpio lets go. Even when it hurts. Even when it terrifies them. Because they know transformation is where their soul evolves. But here's the part that hits hardest. Scorpio's transformations are often invisible to the world.
No fanfare.
No sympathy posts, just silence, disappearance, and then rebirth. Their loved ones often don't even realize the level of pain Scorpio endured. Why? Because Scorpio protects their process. They grieve alone. They don't ask for validation. And that makes their comeback even more powerful because no one sees it coming. One day you look up and they've become someone entirely new. And don't confuse that with changing masks. Scorpio doesn't fake reinvention. They embody it. So what's the life lesson here? Pain isn't the end. It's the beginning. Scorpio teaches us that darkness isn't something to fear. It's something to pass through. That our worst moments can become the sacred soil for our greatest growth. That we are not defined by what breaks us but by how we rebuild. And the next time you see a Scorpio fall silent, disappear, or seem lost in the shadows, don't count them out. They're not gone. They're evolving. Reason 9. Scorpio values authenticity above all. You can have money. You can have charm. You can have popularity. But if you're not real, Scorpio wants nothing to do with you. More than any other sign in the zodiac, Scorpio values authenticity. Raw, unfiltered, unapologetic truth. Doesn't have to be perfect. Just has to be real. Because for Scorpio, falsehood is poison. Pretending is betrayal. And the mask you wear? They'll see right through it. Scorpio doesn't just dislike fake people. They're repelled by them. And this is the 9th reason why Scorpios are so often right. Their refusal to accept anything less than authenticity gives them a permanent advantage in a world built on appearances. They don't get blinded by aesthetics. They don't fall for charm. They don't care if you seem nice. They care if your energy matches your words. If your heart aligns with your actions. Let's talk about Ryan Gosling. Yes, he's a movie star. But he's also a Scorpio who's built his entire career around authenticity. He avoids Hollywood's superficial drama, rarely posts on social media. He doesn't chase the spotlight, he lets his work speak. His characters are layered, vulnerable, emotionally honest. Off-screen, he keeps his life grounded, focused on real connections. That quiet integrity, that Scorpio energy. No need for flash, just substance. The thing about Scorpio is, they're not afraid of darkness. They don't need you to be cheerful or polished. They're not looking for perfection. They're looking for truth. So if you're a mess but you own it, they'll ride with you. But if you wear a mask pretending to be someone you're not, they'll leave without a word. And here's the twist. Many people mistake Scorpio's demand for authenticity as judgment. They say, "You're too harsh, too intense. Why can't you just let it go?" But Scorpio doesn't want to argue. They just want something real. And in a world full of filters, branding, and fake smiles, real is rare. That's why they guard it so fiercely. I once knew a Scorpio named Michael. Soft-spoken, observant, always in the background. People thought he was quiet because he was shy. In truth, he was filtering, watching, feeling who was real and who was pretending. And when he connected with someone authentic, he opened up, generous, loyal, funny as hell. But when he sensed someone performing or lying to fit in, he disappeared. No drama.
No confrontation.
Just silence. He didn't have time to waste on masks. Scorpios often get accused of being difficult. But the truth is, they're allergic to superficiality. If the conversation is fake, they check out. If the relationship is performative, they pull away. Not because they're cold, but because being around lies makes them feel sick. Energetically, emotionally, spiritually. And this is also why Scorpio is often right about people. They don't judge based on what someone says, they judge based on what someone is. They feel the cracks in your energy, the tremble in your voice, the contradiction in your eyes. They don't need proof to know what's real. So what's the life lesson? Authenticity is your greatest currency. Scorpio teaches us that it's better to be disliked for who you truly are than loved for a version you created to fit in. That wholeness comes not from pleasing others, but from owning your truth, even if it's messy, complicated, or misunderstood. And the next time a Scorpio distances themselves from you, don't assume it's personal. Assume it's energetic. Because if your soul is showing up fully, they'll meet you there. If it's not, they're gone. Reason 10. Scorpio's sense of justice is fierce and unshakable. Scorpio isn't just obsessed with truth, they are loyal to it, even when it hurts, even when it isolates them, even when everyone else stays silent. Scorpio will speak up, or act, or walk away, because for Scorpio, justice isn't just an ideal, it's a soul contract. And this fierce, unwavering loyalty to what's right, even when it's unpopular, is the 10th reason why Scorpios are so often right. Not just factually right, but morally right. They know how to pick a side, and it's rarely the easy one. In a world full of gray areas and moral compromise, Scorpio moves differently. They sense when something is wrong, even if no one's admitting it. And while others stay quiet to protect comfort or status, Scorpio is willing to sacrifice approval to defend the truth. Let's look at a powerful Scorpio in history. Theodore Roosevelt, the 26th President of the United States. Roosevelt was a Scorpio who embodied the spirit of justice and fearless reform. He fought corruption, broke up corporate monopolies, and championed the working class. Despite immense political pressure, he was bold, he was divisive, but most of all, he was right to challenge the powerful when others were too afraid. That's Scorpio courage, doing what's right, even when it costs everything. But this sense of justice doesn't always play out on a global stage. Sometimes it happens in the quietest corners of everyday life. Take Delilah, a Scorpio high school teacher I once knew. A brilliant educator who discovered that a senior student, well-liked and praised by the administration, was bullying vulnerable classmates in ways the cameras and counselors never saw. Delilah gathered proof, confronted the student, alerted parents, and when the school tried to bury the issue to protect their golden boy, Delilah escalated it. She wasn't trying to be a hero. She just couldn't live with injustice. She risked her job, her reputation, and her peace. But she stood her ground. And that student, eventually held accountable, because someone chose truth over image. That's Scorpio. Their loyalty is not to titles or institutions. It's to integrity. If something's wrong, they feel it in their bones. And if you try to manipulate them into silence, they'll see through you, walk away, and never look back. But this moral compass often comes with a cost. Scorpios are labeled too serious, too confrontational, or too intense because they refuse to play along with what's easy. They lose friends, they leave careers, they endure backlash, not because they enjoy drama, but because compromising their ethics feels worse than being alone. This is why Scorpio often finds themselves isolated, surrounded by people who say, "Why do you care so much?" And their answer, whether spoken or not, is always the same. Because someone has to. So what's the life lesson? Right is right, even if you stand alone. Scorpio reminds us that justice isn't always loud or rewarded. Sometimes it's lonely. Sometimes it costs you everything. But doing the right thing, especially when it's hard, is the mark of true power. And the next time a Scorpio draws a line in the sand, don't try to convince them to cross it. Ask yourself why they drew it. Because if a Scorpio takes a stand, it's never for show. It's for truth. Reason 11. Scorpio's resilience is unmatched. You can wound a Scorpio. You can break their heart. You can betray their trust. But you can never ever keep them down. If there's one force in the zodiac that refuses to stay defeated, it's Scorpio. Their resilience isn't loud. It doesn't come with dramatic declarations or tearful social media posts. Scorpio's resilience is quiet, furious, and unshakable. It's forged in fire, and every time they fall, they rise stronger, sharper, and more untouchable than before. While other signs might crumble under emotional weight, Scorpio walks through the wreckage of their life with blood on their hands and wisdom in their eyes. They've lost more than they talk about. They've cried harder than they'll admit. But the world doesn't see that part because Scorpio doesn't collapse in public. They transform in private. Consider Demi Moore, a Scorpio icon who faced devastating lows, from substance battles to heartbreak to losing her sense of identity in the harsh lights of Hollywood. Many thought she had disappeared. But in true Scorpio fashion, she returned, not as a broken woman, but as a phoenix. Stronger, grounded, and more spiritually aligned than ever. She wrote a memoir. She confronted her past. She owned her pain and turned it into power. That is Scorpio resilience. Not just surviving the fire, but becoming it. And it's not always public. Often, Scorpio's greatest battles happen behind closed doors. Divorce, betrayal, loss, trauma. They experience it deeply, deeper than anyone realizes. But they don't ask for pity. They don't explain. They vanish into themselves, break apart, rebuild, and return changed. What most people mistake for coldness in Scorpio is actually scar tissue, the result of surviving what would have broken someone else entirely. And here's what makes it even more powerful. Scorpios don't just recover, they evolve. When life knocks them down, they don't just stand back up. They rise with new eyes, new boundaries, new strength. They learn from the pain. They integrate it. They use it as fuel. Let me tell you about Kira, a Scorpio single mom who lost everything. Her marriage, her home, her job, all within the span of 6 months. People expected her to collapse. But Scorpio doesn't crumble. She got quiet, focused. Day by day she built a new life, took night classes, found a new career path, rebuilt her credit, protected her peace. Now, she owns a small business and mentors women who've been through the same kind of storm. No one saw the nights she cried herself to sleep, but they see the power now. This resilience comes from Scorpio's deep connection to death and rebirth. Symbolically, Scorpio is the only sign ruled by Pluto, the planet of endings, transformation, and regeneration. They understand that loss isn't final, that destruction is often a doorway, and that true strength is born not from how much you lift, but from how many times you rise. So what's the life lesson? Strength isn't about avoiding pain. It's about facing it and coming back with more wisdom, more clarity, and more fire than before. Scorpio reminds us that rock bottom isn't the end. It's a sacred beginning. That the people who seem the strongest aren't untouched by pain. They've just been tempered by it. And the next time you count Scorpio out, think again. Because if they've been quiet, they're not broken. They're building. Reason 12. Scorpio knows when to let go. Scorpio doesn't cling. They cut. Not out of cruelty. Not out of spite. But because deep down they understand a truth most people spend their whole lives avoiding. Not everything is meant to be saved. This is the 12th and final reason why Scorpio is so often right. They know when to let go not just of people but of ideas, illusions, patterns, timelines, and even versions of themselves. While others fight to hold on, Scorpio watches quietly and walks away. You see, letting go isn't weakness to a Scorpio. It's wisdom. It's power. It's freedom. Because Scorpio understands something sacred. Every ending is a beginning in disguise. This is what separates them from others. When a relationship becomes toxic, Scorpio doesn't negotiate endlessly. When a dream turns into a prison, they don't pretend it still brings joy. When a friend betrays them, they don't need closure. They recognize the death of energy, and instead of resisting it, they honor it. Scorpio rules the 8th house of the zodiac, the house of death, rebirth, and deep transformation. This means they are cosmically wired to understand cycles. They feel when something is finished even before it looks finished. And when that moment arrives, they do something most people fear. They release. Completely. Without drama. Without second chances. Without turning back. Take Winona Ryder again, Scorpio through and through. When her career imploded after public scandal, she didn't cling to old fame. She let go of Hollywood's demands, disappeared from the spotlight, and only returned when she was reborn on her own terms. She didn't try to be the old Winona. She became something new, something wiser, something stronger. Letting go doesn't mean Scorpio stops caring. It means they've recognized the truth. Some energies cannot grow. Some connections are karmic lessons, not lifelong bonds. Some battles aren't worth fighting, especially when the cost is their peace. But make no mistake, getting to that point is never easy for Scorpio. They're loyal, deeply. They give more than they show. They stay long after they've been hurt. But once their soul says, enough, the door closes for good. That's what makes their goodbye so final. It's not from anger. It's from alignment. And yes, it's often misunderstood. People think Scorpio is cold, harsh, heartless. But in truth, it takes immense courage to walk away from what once mattered deeply, to mourn in silence, to start over without applause, to rebuild in private. But Scorpio doesn't need to be understood. They just need to be true. So what's the final life lesson? Sometimes the most powerful thing you can do is let go. Scorpio teaches us that releasing what no longer serves you isn't loss, it's liberation. That walking away isn't giving up, it's growing up. That endings aren't failures, they're invitations to rebirth. And the next time a Scorpio lets go of something or someone, don't ask them to explain. Just understand, they've already died and been reborn because of it. Conclusion: Scorpio is not just right, they are aligned with truth. So now you've seen it, 12 undeniable reasons why Scorpio stands in a league of their own. It's not arrogance. It's not ego. It's not luck. It's alignment. With truth. With energy. With the raw, unfiltered, often painful essence of reality. Scorpio is not right because they shout the loudest. They're right because they see what others deny, feel what others ignore, and act when others freeze. Their wisdom is earned. Their insights are forged through fire. Their decisions are made in silence but spoken with certainty. They are the intuitive, the fearless, the resilient, the ones who see through masks, the ones who cut ties when the soul says, "It's time." The ones who will stand alone quietly, but firmly, on the side of truth, even when the world clings to illusion. Yes, their intensity can be intimidating. Yes, their silence can feel brutal. Yes, their standards can be confronting. But if you're blessed to have a Scorpio in your life, truly in your life, you have someone who will fight for your soul, not your comfort. Someone who will challenge your excuses, protect your truth, and love you in a way that demands your evolution. Because Scorpio doesn't just want to be right, they want to be real. And that perhaps is the greatest reason of all. So now I ask you, do you agree that Scorpio is usually right? Or are you brave enough to challenge them? Drop your thoughts in the comments below. Share your stories, whether you love them, fear them, or still don't understand them. Scorpios are always worth the conversation. And if you're a Scorpio yourself, don't dim your depth. Don't water down your truth. Don't apologize for your fire. The world needs your eyes, your honesty, your resilience, your transformation. You weren't made to blend in. You were made to burn through the lies and light up what's real.